Well, here we are. Before we talk about Tempest or Amazon, let's talk about the fact that we have mostly dry conditions for the eastern part of the United States. Just a couple of weak weather systems moving through over the next couple of days. One's moving through tonight. The weekend is going to bring a storm that'll probably bring severe weather risks for the Mississippi Valley and points east. And we've got all sorts of other exciting things to talk about tonight here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which of course you can support by shopping on Amazon through our referral link that's pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this podcast. Just use the link, shop till you drop, and Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin for sending you there. Doesn't cost you anything, and it keeps us from having to run extra commercials during the show. So we appreciate those of you who have supported us by shopping at the Amazon link. So here we are. It is a Tuesday. Went to the beauty parlor today, Joe.
Oh, lovely.
I did. I got my, it was like less of a caveman. I got it cleaned up and neatened up just a little bit. I did a really good job, I think. I don't have to have the hair on my mustache dubbing as dental floss while I'm eating. So I've lost that advantage. But nonetheless, I do want to say, and you may have something to say about this, but I'm going to put a link up. I put one up earlier, but I'll put it up again as the chat board scrolls away in case you missed it the first time around. There is a new podcast in town that Joe and I are part of. It's called Weather Legends, and it'll more than likely be a once a week podcast. And the link is there to the YouTube channel. It's being produced by meteorologist Rich Von Olin, who was also of the News 12 family. And I'm on it. Joe's on it. Bill Corbell's on it. James Gregorio's going to be on it from time to time. Pat Pagano is on it. And we're going to have all sorts of, exciting conversations and maybe special guests along the way. So there's the link to the YouTube channel. Be sure you subscribe. So this way, when we do a new show, you'll get it.
It's an exciting concept. We'll see how long it persists. I mean, how long have we been doing this? For at least, 6, 7 years?
1,000. Let me double check again, because I checked today, because somebody asked me about this. Just giving a moment. I'll get the exact number. This is the 1,478th show that we have done.
No.
I mean, it's really hard to believe. I mean, we go back to probably started doing it on and off, in 2018 or so?
Yeah,
And, and then,
yeah, it's been 7 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
it really has. We're doing it 5 days a week now, certainly since 2020. So 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, five full years, and now we've started a sixth year from that standpoint. So yeah, there's a nice little library of shows there, so that 300 years from now, someone is going to look at it and wonder why.
Who are these? Who were these people?
Who are these masked men?
Yes.
Yeah, but I think the Weather Legends show is going to be, it's good. I think it'll be fun, and we'll get to dish, which is always nice.
Well, again, it's going to be, I think, a little different than what we offer here, but it'll give people a chance to actually see, for example, if you're on Long Island and listened for many years to WALK, Pat Pagano is going to be with us. And we also have, of course, Bill Corbell. Many people dearly missed Bill after he had retired from News 12 Long Island a couple of years back. And Rich Von Olin, who I worked with at News 12, he was the guy at the Traffic and Weather Channel, which you really can't recognize anymore now. It's more like the Traffic and Infomercial Channel, not so much Traffic and Weather anymore. And James Gregorio, who is well known in New Jersey. So a lot of different things that are going to be available to us and talk about, and looking forward to kicking it off very soon.
Yeah, and it is going to be different than what we do because we're basically now casting every day, and we do other stuff too. But our primary focus is really
We're more
what's
freewheeling, so to speak.
yeah, and less in the way of what's going on specifically because it's probably going to be a once a week show. So, maybe we might talk about something that might have happened earlier in the week, weather-wise, or maybe we might make a mention of something that could happen down the road, weather-wise. But it's going to be more about, I guess the best way to put it, it's going to be more about the personal stuff, and
Yeah,
and
and
and that.
hopefully there won't be any situation that arouses me to throw a rant on that
Oh,
show.
please,
You know,
that'll for me for me it will depend on who the guests are.
yeah. Well, for example, today, I posted simply on my Facebook page an article from Time Magazine detailing the amount of money that has been pulled from uh, U.S. Department of Commerce and NOAA by the current administration. How much more money is expected to be pulled later this year? And interesting, I posted that, figured it was something of interest, and what happened? A large number of people came back and said simply stick to weather, Joe, which didn't make any sense because it dealt
You
with
know
weather.
what? You know,
You know,
okay. I'm just gonna say I won't say it, but if you use if I wave my hand and I didn't use my entire hand, that would be my response to somebody like that.
yeah.
Because you know what? You're a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer, okay, and you we have every right to say whatever we want on on whatever subject there is. And if someone tells you to stick to weather, you could tell them to stick it too.
Now I didn't have to because Tom Contino's making it sound like the vast majority of people who commented on that post turned on me. Yeah, and I wouldn't say a vast majority. I'd say maybe roughly half, but the other half came right back and went after the people who went after me and said, if you don't like it, just go to another channel. Go
Scroll
other,
by.
you know
You know,
who.
people seem to think that that their opinions matter. They don't. I try to explain that to some people who I don't really get too much of that because I just kind of I don't want I don't I usually try not to post that sort of stuff because there's you can't win with it. Okay, you're going to get somebody if you don't like it, scroll by. I don't give a rat's rear end. Okay, what you think, and I don't care what you think of me. Okay, so and frankly, your opinion doesn't matter. So there you go. You
No,
are
the
you
big
are
thing that got me,
irrelevant.
the thing that made me actually chuckle was the fact that here the article dealt with the National Weather Service, the NOAA, U.S. Department of Commerce. It was all weather related, and a lot of people came back and said, "Stick to weather, Joe." Oh, oofa, as my grandfather would say. I mean, it wasn't so much a political, article. Again, it was from Time Magazine. It was dealing with what you and I and all of the others in the meteorological community are going to be facing in the coming months. We've already begun to face it. I mean, we've mentioned, or I think we've touched upon the fact that there are some weather service offices that are not sending up balloons with radiosondes because of the so-called budget cuts that have been taking place, and even more will be occurring in the coming months or later this year, and it will have a major influence on weather forecasting and weather forecasters in general. So it does deal with me, and it does deal with weather. I don't
Of
care what
course
any,
it does. Of
I mean,
course it
these
does.
people, they just, Jamie Foxx says Idiocracy is indeed a documentary, note a movie, LOL. You know, it's crazy that people, and I mean, if you, and I've said this once, I'll say it one more time. Yes, I agree. $37 trillion in the red. We need to find a way to cut that down, but don't just do it arbitrarily with what Mr. Musk wants to use.
Right.
Just
Look, I'm just going to take the other
do it on
side.
a case, do it on a case by case
Okay,
basis.
but I will. I'm
Look
just
at the
going to.
numbers and see where the cutting can be done. Just don't arbitrarily cut, this and
Right.
that and that without even considering the implications of what
Right.
eventually is going to
But
take place.
I will just take the other side of this conversation, this point of view, just for a moment. I'm not saying that I completely agree with what I'm about to say, but this is government, okay? And we have been having the same conversation about if we want to make the conversation about the budget deficit, okay? We've been having that conversation for the better part of 30 years. Actually, you really want to go back to you have been having that conversation ever since Jimmy Carter was president, okay? And it's been what it winds up being is that, okay, everybody's for cuts as long as you cut the other guy, okay? People are okay. The people that are okay with tax increases are okay with tax increases as long as it's on somebody else. Uh, People are also okay for cuts, but don't cut my services. Okay, so there's a lot of personal stuff that gets involved in all of this, and I would just say that you know waiting for Congress to do something is it's never going to happen. It's just never going to happen. So, in some respects, I almost think as if the slash and burn thing is kind of a wake up call. It says, well, of course, if you're not going to do anything about it, then this is what we're going to do. And then you get everybody all up in a boil. And now we'll see where this all goes going forward. The whole judge thing and courts and all the rest of it. But, uh, it's a very complex, it's an extremely complex thing that we're talking about, especially with all these government agencies and all the rest of it. But you're right. Weather is it affects us. It affects us on a daily basis, whatever they do to NOAA and whatever they do to the Weather Service. And fortunately, from what I understand, they're not going to touch the forecasters. Now, they may be doing some rearranging, but they're generally not going to be touching the forecasters. So let's see. Let's see where it goes. We're not going to solve that equation here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which airs Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Am I right?
That's absolutely right. And I'm just looking at it. Some of these comments are so funny. I mean, and I can, we've talked about how Bill Corbell had had to deal with these people with the chemtrails. Here's one person on my Facebook page saying, "You don't even admit about chemtrails. You don't even admit that chemtrails poison our skies. I mean, get off of this, please, please." And another person, Jolene Tazi Lorisden. I can't even pronounce the name. Stick to informing us about weather. Well, I am informing you about weather. This article from Time Magazine was, quote, the true cost of Trump's cuts to NOAA and also to NASA, too. So, that's all.
Yeah, enough.
If you want to read it, go ahead. If you want to criticize it, go ahead. And you can say whatever you want on my page because, as Joe just said, I don't give a blankety blank about what you say.
Yeah.
I know I'm the right, and I'm sure, and about 60% of the people on my page who made a commentary are right as well. And all of you who say, yeah, no big deal, blah 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 blah, we'll see. Let's see what happens if a tornado comes this summer and wrecks your house, and I didn't get a warning about that. Then don't come crying to us. You know,
Welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight. And
yeah,
welcome to those of you who are Still watching in the background, we hope, on the Joe and Joe Weather Show
See, this is
podcast.
the stuff you're not going to get. You're not going to get this stuff on the Legends show because we're going to be
Well, you
very.
might get this stuff on the Legends show.
Well, I'm going to be more, polite. On this show, on our show, we could say and do anything that we want.
That's
So,
correct.
so
And if you don't like it, then you can go someplace else. You know, but we'd like you to come here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. If you like the show, hit the like button and please subscribe and turn your notifications on. Joe, I have been between 14,992 and 15,000 for the last like 6 weeks. And every time it gets to above 15,000, there's some smart Alex out there who unsubscribe and take me down. So if you haven't subscribed yet, just subscribe. Get me over 15,000. Let's clear it by about 10 or 15 people. So this way I can feel happy about myself. Okay?
but it's only a
So
number, Joe.
I know it's always only a number. I get it. All right. Well, let's sashay over to the watches and warnings map because there's nothing on it again. We have a few flood watches up. The first one's going up in South Texas. We have some high wind watches and warnings up in parts of Nevada and Northern California into Oregon. Some flood advisories in the light green in parts of Oregon, northern Nevada, easternmost Idaho, and north central Idaho, and that's primarily due to snowmelt more than anything else. And that really is just about it. It's very docile, and it's probably going to stay that way for the next several days, with a few exceptions. But I was looking at the weekend, just trying to figure out the weekend. Uh, it's going to be a little bit, it's going to be a tricky forecast on Saturday, I think, because it's all going to really depend on. There's a warm front that's going to try to form to our north, and then depending on which model you believe, um, does it drop southward and maybe stops somewhere in central New Jersey so that south and west of there it's in the 70s and north and east of there it's raining in the 40s? I think that to me is probably the bigger challenge this weekend is figuring that out.
Wherever that front lies, and it could be a real big bust if you miss the positioning of that front by, let's say, 50 or 75 miles. Absolutely true, Joe. You could go for a forecast of, let's say, and that's why what can you do? I set temperatures in the 50s on Saturday, but again, depending upon the positioning of that front, if the colder air to the north pushes a little further south and puts us in a northeast wind, we could be only in the 40s. If the front somehow manages to go north of us, we could, as you pointed out, South Jersey especially will be in the 70s, and we could be in the 60s to near 70. So it's going to be a tough call this weekend as to what we're going to see based upon the positioning of that front Saturday and Sunday.
So you see across eastern Canada, you've got cyclonic flow. And as a result, you can also see what's going on with a little disturbance there that has dropped southeastward from the plains, is now moving through the mid-Atlantic states, and it's going to make its exit tonight and turn northeast. Maybe brings a little bit of rain to Delaware and southernmost New Jersey and possibly southeastern New England for a short time late tonight or tomorrow morning. But again, and I mean, the system is weak. Clouds will be rolling through tonight, but this is another example of the flow just basically suppressing everything and that there's not really any room for anything to develop once it moves offshore.
And once it does move offshore, and that's another thing is that there's a big ridge of high pressure that's going to be off the mid-Atlantic coastline, almost like I'm not going to say like a subtropical high, but or a Bermuda high, but that big ridge is going to play a role in just exactly what's going to happen over the weekend as well. How strong will that ridge be? Will it flex its muscles and push that front further to the north, or will it sag to the south? So again, these are all but the one thing I think we can say, Joe, with a certain amount of certainty or surety is that between now and the end of the day Sunday, the amount of precipitation that we're going to see is going to be fairly minimal. I mean, there might be tomorrow
Yes.
with a weak weather disturbance moving across the region. There might be a couple of spotty light showers or sprinkles, and even north of 84, the 84 corridor, Interstate 84, it might be just cold enough to allow for some wet flakes to mix in. That's not even worth the cheap thrill. But in any case, that's tomorrow. Thursday will be a bright, beautiful, sunny day. Friday looks like a not too bad day either. Just a lot of mid and high level clouds. And then we have to play the game of where the front is going to be over the weekend as to exactly what we're going to see, how much cloud cover we're going to get. Even Saturday and Sunday, though, precipitation is going to be rather minimal, I think. A few passing showers. The thing that we'll be watching will be Monday, and we'll get into that in just a few moments when we look at the SPC convective outlook, because I think the Atlantic seaboard will be, at least a part of it, will be in line for possible active weather with showers and storms. It doesn't look like, from the long range outlook, that we're going to be here in the tri state area in the zone for possible severe weather, but that could change if that area elongates along the eastern seaboard. We could very well see that move into our area for Monday with the approach of a next cold front coming our way later in the day on Monday.
All right. I outlined two areas on the satellite loop, and there is already some signs of subtropical moisture coming up over Baja California into Mexico and into South Texas. So that might be the beginnings of what is going to set up later on. And then we have, energy that's coming in off the Pacific, which is going to be a player later this week and going into this weekend when we start to see lower pressures develop again in the Central Plains and then ultimately wind up in the Great Lakes. So I don't understand. By the way, I saw somebody posting this that the link that I put up with regards to the Legends channel is not correct. Uh, that it somehow takes me back to my channel, but the link is correct. So if you try it, uh, it's there. So hopefully it takes you to the right place. Otherwise, just search Weather Legends on YouTube and it'll take you right to it. Radars tonight, there's a little bit of precip on the radar. I don't know how much of this is reaching the ground there in around Washington D.C., Baltimore into southernmost Pennsylvania. That'll probably skim southern New Jersey as it goes east. A little bit of maybe some steadier precip in you head down further south into Virginia and into North Carolina. There's also a patch in Ohio that is moving eastward, and we've got some light snows in north central New York and up in northern Vermont. And that's all in that cyclonic flow in the cold air. Otherwise, when you look at the rest of the country, it's pretty quiet. And there's a little bit of thunderstorm activity going on in South Florida, north of, looks like maybe north of West Palm Beach and points northward, maybe around Jupiter and Stewart, Florida, Port St. Lucie, in that area. Looks like a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings have popped up in there too. So, uh, again, that's left over from that old frontal boundary. I just go back to the satellite loop, and you can see the lightning strikes there that are going on along the Florida coast. The Storm Prediction Center tonight has a small area of marginal risk in that area of Florida. Also, a small area of marginal risk in north central Texas and southeast Oklahoma, probably for later on tonight. Now, tomorrow, there's an unusual map, Joe. We don't get to see this too often. There's a marginal to slight risk in Oregon and Washington, with the slight risk along the coast. Okay. And there's actually a 2% tornado risk being indicated there, interestingly enough.
That's
Yeah.
very unusual. Yeah, indeed.
Very weird indeed. And there's also a marginal risk in South Texas near the Mexico border. And as we move on, there's nothing going on day three. There's a marginal risk in the southern part of Texas from the coast all the way back to the southwestern part of the state. And then we have a marginal risk in southeast Nebraska, northeast Kansas, northern Missouri into Illinois, and southern Iowa. Uh, it's in the longer range. Now, SPC changed a couple of things here. So, Yesterday they had it in day 6 and day 7. So day 6, which was showing an area in I think it was the lower Mississippi Valley, a small area in the lower Mississippi on day 6 yesterday would be day 5 today. They now have potential too low for day 5. So, um, and I think that's because of the fact of how this system, these systems over the weekend into early next week, how they're evolving, that caused them to change a bit. The old day 7, which is now day 6, remains pretty much the same, which is an implied area of slight risk for Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Northwest Georgia, much of Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, and into northeastern Texas. So that pretty much stays the same, and I suspect that that will carry tomorrow when we look at this. Now, on the new day 7, they have a 15% or implied slight risk from southern Delmarva, the southern half of Virginia, southward into Georgia. Now, if we want to use our imaginations with this, I would suspect the marginal risk might look something like this, where they bring it up to southern New Jersey. I would also say, Joe, that a lot depends on this whole thing this weekend that we're going to be dealing with this warm front. Because if the warm front winds up being further north and you're pushing 70-degree temperatures up into the Hudson Valley and into Connecticut, then you might want to push that marginal risk further north and maybe want to, for this would be for Monday, and then push the slight risk up a little further north.
It's, as I said, it's going to be dependent as we move along whether or not that area stretches up to the north and reaches up into our area. And it would not, I would not be at all surprised if at least we were in general thunderstorm activity for Monday, but it would not be surprising if we had marginal risk placed in our area, let's say Sunday or on the actual day of question Monday. So I mean, I mentioned the possibility for a thunderstorm here on Monday with the front approaching from the west, and we'll see how it goes, how it all works out.
WPC has about a half to 3/4 of an inch of liquid over the next 7 days, and they've got an inch and a half plus in upstate New York and Vermont, New Hampshire, and back across the northern Great Lakes. Also, an inch and a half plus in the Ohio Valley, and a lot of rain, several to 6 inches worth in South Texas and along the Texas coastal bend, with an inch and a half rainfall amounts extending up into Louisiana. So, and while all that's going on, if you're in Maryland, Virginia, North and South Carolina to Georgia and northern Florida, we're talking about a quarter of an inch or even a tenth of an inch or less in some places. And of course, we've got heavier precip in the northern Rockies, as well as quite a bit of it in the Pacific Northwest, especially near the coast from just north of San Francisco, going all the way up to Seattle and beyond into southwestern Canada. So here's what the surface map looks like tonight. We've got this weak disturbance going by. There's also the upper trough that's going to come through probably in the afternoon, which is why you see some snow showers there up in northeast PA and in the Catskills, and then that goes out. Another upper trough comes through Thursday night with a little bit of snow way to the north. Then you start to set up the energy that's coming into the Pacific, which shoots a low out in the northern plains, and there's the warm front that sets up here with some kind of low in Wisconsin. You also have that subtropical moisture that I pointed out earlier that makes for some big thunderstorms in parts of Texas and into Louisiana come Friday afternoon and evening. And that warm front, again, initially it's to the north. In fact, we've got a west wind here Saturday morning. The west wind goes all the way up north of Route 84, and then suddenly it drops southward Saturday afternoon and gets hung up somewhere in central New Jersey. Now, the European, by the way, the European says that's not happening. Europeans got the front up in upstate New York near Albany to Boston, and that's where it leaves it. So there's a question here. I tend to, backdoor fronts in the springtime like to, throw monkey wrenches in models in both directions. So we're going to just have to see, where this all winds up, because that's obviously going to play a role in the forecast. But as Joe pointed out, there's not a whole lot of precip here. I mean, there's a little bit that kind of comes through Friday night as the warm front sort of goes by to the north. And then, when it drops southward, it looks like there's some rain into southern New England, and how far south does that get? We don't know. But then I think the main action is going to be, this low, another low that forms in Missouri and heads up into Indiana and Ohio, and then it kind of the GFS wants to move it straight east, while because it builds a big high up there north of Lake Superior, where the European says no, that low is going to go up into the Great Lakes, and it's going to be a strong cold front that's going to pass to the east. So I don't know. I would tend to favor Joe. The European has been, in general, a whole lot better with these sorts of things. These last couple of months, uh, with the GFS has kind of overplayed its hand a few times, and this might be another instance where that happens. But you can see the European, brings a little bit of rain on Sunday, and then it's got strong storms in the Ohio Valley Sunday, and then they kind of make their way to the East Coast sometime Monday afternoon. I think that probably makes more sense to me.
Yeah, it makes more sense to me as well. I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, and after that, it's a shot of cold, dry air for starting April 1st. Then you got another low later next week that wants to come out of the plains and go to the lakes with more severe weather to deal with. So, we're in this mode here where systems are just doing what they want to do, which is basically go to the Great Lakes, and we get cold fronts and having to deal with back doors. And I kind of think that's going to be the primary idea, and going into the first week of April. So, do you have Briller Jeopardy?
I don't think I do. I didn't.
Okay, then I do. So hold on to your person, and and I will. Yes, let's see. Okay, so we're doing average high temperatures in March, Joe.
Okay, well,
Average,
it's better than average low temperatures.
right. Average high temperatures in March, and we will begin with Atlanta.
Ah, how about 74?
That's a little too high, Joe. If you're in the 70s, you're a little too high. Rich Mansky, double sixes, Joe. Boxcars, 66.
And was that the correct answer?
That is the correct answer.
Oh, well, then we got to give him a bell ring. There you go, Rich. Good work.
Okay, now to the northeast of Atlanta is Charlotte. Charlotte, North Carolina.
That's a little tricky because they're elevated as compared to Atlanta, I think. Um, so how about 59?
Um, it is you were correct to go lower, but you went a little bit too low. Seeing some numbers here. Jason Fox at 63 is very close. And Rich Mansky at 65 is equally close, which means Northern Grace, Joe, got it at 64.
64 for Charlotte.
Yes. Now, the next city, as we know, when you're driving in Ohio, there ain't another thing clean as Cincinnati.
How about for Cincinnati? I will say 57.
Wise decision to go into the 50s. You're a smidge too warm. Don Melander and Jason Fox, with double nickels, and James Davidson all in Snake Country, and Frank R is too, but Rich Rothmansky at 54. 54. Now let's go northeast and go to Boston.
Okay, well, Boston, I would say, would be. Uh, how about how about I don't know whether I should go into the 40s or not with Boston. All right, I'll say 49.
That's just a little too high. A little too high. Mike Waterhouse Bonsai gets it at 46. 46, Joe. And finally, before the bonus, we have Baltimore.
Well, how about for Baltimore? I'll say 55.
Now, you finish the night on a solid note, Mr. Rayo. You may ring the bell for your person.
Thank you. Ring, 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 ring.
Now, here's the Sunob, or the bonus. And it's Lieutenam, Montreal.
Oh, Montreal.
Montreal.
Yes. Been there a couple of times in my life. Lovely city. Um, hmm. 42?
That's a little too warm. A little too warm.
Vincent
Uh,
Croce. Vincent Croce says Rusty Staub.
right. Rich
The Grand
Rodmansky.
Orange.
Rich Rodmansky is close with 35, but Patrick Darcy gets it at 36. 36 for
Wow.
Montreal. And there you have
Did
it.
not think did not think they were that cold at this late in the season, but you learn something new every day.
Right, exactly. Okay, I'm just going to, this is really weird. Let me try this again. All right, why is it? All right, that's what it says. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put the link up one more time, and that should take you to Weather Legends. Okay, so if you
Tom
haven't,
Con- Tom Contino asking about the weather Thursday for the New York Yankees at the big ballpark in the South Bronx. Game time temperature should be around, I would say, 54 or 55 degrees. Bright blue skies, a few puffy clouds, and lots of sunshine. Can't ask for much better weather at the end of. Used to be opening day was like the 10th or the 12th of April. Here we are still in March and we're opening the baseball season, so that's the best I can hope you could hope for at this time of the year. Will be temperatures in the low to mid 50s, and again, lots of bright sunshine.
well, that's good. Who are they opening up with?
Who are they opening up with? Um, I think it's Milwaukee. There are a lot of Yankee fans on this on this. The Twins. They're opening up against the Twins. That according to Patrick Dorsey.
Oh, it is the Twins. Okay.
Now Patrick Dorsey says Brewer. I said Milwaukee. All right, good. Milwaukee.
Fantino says the
So I was
Brewers.
right. I was right. No, it's not the Twins. It's Milwaukee.
All right. Anyway, either way, I won't be watching the game, so it doesn't really matter to me. And I was a Yankee fan as a kid. Somewhere along the lines in my adulthood, I just lost all interest in baseball. I don't know why. I just did.
Oh, I can tell you why. Because you have to spend a ton of money just to get into the ballpark and to buy something to eat. And you're watching a bunch of millionaires and multimillionaires running around in costumes and playing a little boy's game. So there you go.
I don't know. I think it's more than that, though, for me. I don't know. I got just the idea of sitting still in front of a TV set for 3 or 4 hours. Well, the games just got too long and too out of hand. And I guess when my kids were growing up, I was too busy with their sports, because they all played travel soccer, so I had to go all over
Right.
creation with them. So but I just kind of lost interest. And I tried to watch, I sit there and watch, well, especially now because when you watch ball games now, can they just shut up? I mean, can they just shut up? All right. And they put all this, all this data is going on and, and it's constantly changing and there's stuff on the top and there's stuff on the bottom. And, the baseball part is like squeezing the screen in the middle and you got to see what color socks the guy's wearing and all this other. It's like, and I just like, I can't do this. I can't.
A
I'll
few
tell you
weeks.
something. The best experience I had at a sports game at a sports event was when I went to a New York Giants game in 20. I think it was 2018. In
With your
2018,
daughter.
with my daughter, it was like
Yes, I remember that
It
game.
was my Christmas birthday present, and I loved it because there was nobody talking all the time. Okay, it's the football game. And I got to see myself on the Jumbotron, which I had taped earlier in the morning. And that was cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm watching this football game. It's like, oh my God, there's nobody telling me that, this penalty, this call, that this, he pulled, did he drop it? Did he not drop it? Were his feet inbounds? Was the ball a play? Blah, but none of that. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful not to have to listen to all that garbage.
Quite in contrast to what we have here in the East nowadays, and nobody ever brings a radio anymore. But back in the late 50s, Vin Scully told a story where you could go to Dodger Stadium when it first opened up in 1962, and everybody brought a transistor radio. And Vin said that he could actually hear himself as he was broadcasting the game throughout the ballpark. And one time, one of the umpires had a birthday, and I think it was Frank Sikori was the name of the umpire, and he said, "How about this? How about on the count of three, everybody yells out, 'Happy birthday, Frank!'" And sure enough, he counted down three, two, one. The whole ballpark went, "Happy birthday, Frank!" And he said the umpire was so startled by that whole thing. That's something that it was kind of unique in the days of the early days of baseball broadcasting. But Joe, about a month ago, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live, they ran the very first episode of SNL, who was hosted by George Carlin. This was 1975. And in that particular show, George Carlin, unlike what you see today, where they do like a monologue at the beginning and that's it, George Carlin was doing monologues all through the show. One of his monologues was about the differences between football and baseball. And he pointed out football goes by a clock. There's no clock in baseball. Well, here we are 50 years later, and look, baseball too is run on the clock. Not only is there a clock to time out how long it takes for the pitcher to throw the ball, but the game stops when there's a controversial play, and then the umpires have to go back into their respective dressing rooms and get the opinions of umpires in New York looking at
Right.
videotape replays and then they have to come out and either change the call or keep the call as it was. That takes away another 4 or 5 minutes. So baseball too now is at least in part run on the clock. Nothing is sacred anymore.
No, and that's their choice, and I don't go to ball games, so um, yeah, I'm not doing that. So, all right, anyway, let's wrap it up. So everybody, we'll see you tomorrow night at 7:35. Hope you had a great day. Hope you have a great day tomorrow. Nighty night.
Good night, folks.